1:30, and I'm going to call to order the January 21st meeting of the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. I'd like to remind all of our commissioners here in the building that we need to well, it's going to sound kind of funny, but we need to make sure that we talk into our microphones as long as we can get over the feedback. But also, all of you that are attending virtually, we need to make sure that you know to have your microphone unmuted when you're wanting to speak or when you're called upon. Got our technician coming down here to see what's going to happen with our microphones, and I'll wait till he's done, and then I'll ask for the opening. Go ahead and ask for the opening comments, please.
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. For those at Century 2, copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure and Planning Department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representative to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please share your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the room or the GoToMeeting comments box. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the Commission and the Board will be retained by the Secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking, but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please provide your contact information to the Planning Department. The Planning Commission and the Board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as courteous and concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available from the planning staff. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to district court.
Okay. First item on the agenda here is to approve the meetings from our January 7th meeting. I show that Blick, McKay, and Joe Johnson were not in attendance.
Move for approval. I would second, subject to any corrections that Mr. Foster may have.
Good point. It's been moved by Mr. Hartman, second by Mr. Warren, to approve per any corrections that Commissioner Foster may have included and or passed on.
And I'm not aware that we've received any from Mr. Foster as of yet.
Okay, all right. So are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And we have 2 abstentions, so it would be 8-0-2.
No.
we have 11 now, I'm sorry. Okay. B 902. I'm assuming that we are being heard in the hall.
Yeah, we got a thumbs up from one of the viewers.
Okay, thank you, because it's like quiet as a church mouse up here with, from what we're normally used to having.
Yeah.
So, with that, we'll go through the planning agenda, starting off with the consideration of subdivision committee recommendations. We have subdivision 2017-0003, final plat of Castaways Edition. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this item? Seeing none, is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this item?
No one from Century 2 on this case.
Thank you. Is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll take that on consent. Moving on to subdivision 2020-00050, one-step final plat for Trinity Point Second Edition. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
No comment from Century 2.
Thank you. And is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, I do need to state that I did have some ex parte conversations with the developer, or actually the agent for this plat, and there had been some questions concerning a drainage ditch at the north end of this plat that was affecting lots 1 through 10 Block B and lots 21 through 29 Block E. After conversations with Mr. Rose, and after he had had conversations with the flood control, or with stormwater, the easement at the north end is actually going to be expanded, and for the installation of storm drain pipes and little drainage swale or open ditch that's there will be going away. So I just wanted to update everybody on that that's on the subdivision, so that we do have some resolution on that. So with that added information, we do have a motion on the floor to take this on consent. So we'll move along to our next case, be subdivision 2020-00067, a one-step final plat for RH Estates Edition. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
There's no one from Century 2 for this case.
Thank you. And is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Final plat for RH Estates Edition. Hearing none, we'll take that on consent. Next case is subdivision 2020-00068, Nederlanders Second Edition. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
There's no one to comment on from Century 2.
Thank you. And is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Nederlanders Second Edition.
I move for approval of 2-1 through 2-4.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Joe Johnson to approve items 2.1 through 2.4. Did I have a second? Terrell?
Yes.
Okay, Terrell with the second. So it's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously, 11-0. Moving on to vacations, 00052. It would be the vacating a portion of a floodway for a warehouse expansion located at 2820 South Hoover. We do have one abstention on the commission, but is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing none. Is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
There's no one from Century 2 for this case.
Thank you. And is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Hearing none. We'll take that on consent.
Move for approval for item 3.1.
It's been moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Hartman, second by Ms. Miles, to approve this case. As I intimated earlier, we do have one abstention. So all of those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. And all those abstain,
Me.
and Mr. Bill Johnson will be abstaining from the vote on that. Moving on to the public hearing items, we have conditional use 2020-0040, be a group residence limited on property zoned SF5 located at 1825 West Maple. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
Mr. Chairman, I have one or possibly two persons that would like to speak on this case.
Okay, we will hear this case. Moving on to item 4.2, condition, CUP for 00047. It's a CUP amendment to DP 169 to allow major utility and revised screening wall requirements on property zoned limited commercial located at 2423 South Oliver. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Okay, no one here on the commission. Is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
There's no one from Century 2 for this case.
Okay, thank you. And is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll take this one on consent. Mary, there's still no one at Century 2, is that correct?
Stand by, please.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there's no one here for that case.
Okay, thank you. I saw you, I saw some action over there, and I wanted to make sure that we were covering everybody. So moving on to CUP 2020-00049. It's a CUP amendment to Kellogg Mall, DP 12 to modify parcel 1. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
No one from Century 2 for this case.
Okay. And is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case?
Yes, I would.
Okay,
Yes, Monty Shaw would.
okay, that's two.
Amanda Marino as
Three.
well.
Okay,
Yes,
Yes.
Brenda Yoy, I was the first one, yes.
okay, 4.
Barbara Kiefer also.
Okay, we will hear this case for sure. I was just trying to get an idea of how many people were wanting to hear this case. So we will hear 00049. Moving on to PUD 2020-00013. It's a zoning, created a zoning district, PUD 81 in RF Addition, located approximately Rock Road and 31st Street South. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? No one on the commission that would like to hear this case. Is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
There's no one at Century 2 for this case.
Okay. Is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case?
Yes, I do. Rebecca Johnson.
Okay, we will hear this case. Item 4.5 has been deferred, so moving on to moving on to our next case, 00047. It's a zone change from SF5 to TF3.
I think we were on 4.6, weren't we?
Yeah, agenda
Did
item
I say
4.6.
4.5? Or did I?
Agenda item 4.6.
Yeah, agenda item 4.6, which would be 00047, zone change from SF5 to TF3, located approximately at 4929 West Douglas. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? No one on the commission. Is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
There's no one from Century 2 for this case.
Thank you, Mary. Is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? For clarification, zoning case 2020-00047, located south of 4929 West Douglas. Hearing none, we'll take that on consent. Sorry for any confusion. Item 4.7, zone case 00049. It's a county zone change from rural residential to SF5, located at 403 East 4th Street, Valley Center. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have one person at Century 2 who wishes to hear this case.
We will hear this case. Moving on to our next agenda item, 00050, zone change from SF5 to TF3, located 1,800 feet east of North Hydraulic and 2,500 south of 21st Street North. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
No, Mr. Chairman, there's no one here for this case.
Thank you. And is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll take that item on consent. We have zoning case, our next agenda item is 4.9, zone case 00051, city zone change from SF5 to TF3, located at 5507 South Seneca, 5507 South Seneca. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing no one, is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
There's no one from Century 2 for this case.
Thank you. And is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll take this item on consent. Item 4.10, zoning case 00052, zone change from SF5 to TF3. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
Mr. Chairman, there's no one from Century 2 for this case.
Thank you. And is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Zone change 1/2 mile south of West MacArthur on the west side of South Meridian.
Commissioner Green, I'd like to make a motion to approve 4.2, 4.6, 4.8, and 4.9, and 4.10.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Blick, and it's been seconded by Mr. Bill Johnson to approve 4.2, 4.5, or 4.6, excuse me, 4.8, and 4.10, and 9. Thank you. Motion's on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. All those, motion carries unanimously. We'll go to the, at this point, we're going to recess the MAPC meeting and open the BZA meeting. First item on the BZA meeting is to approve the minutes from November 19th. And it appears that everybody was in attendance.
Second.
So it was moved by Ms. Miles, second by Mr. Warren to approve the minutes for the BZA meeting. Any questions on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, we have, we'll see if we have any of the two cases that are wanting to be heard. The first one would be BZA 2020-00065, located at 818 West University. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing none. Is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this BZA case?
There's no one at Century 2 for this case.
Thank you. And is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll take that case on consent. Item 3, or BZA case 00067, property located at on South or 2,300 feet east of South Rock Road and on the south side of Kellogg, basically at Eastern and Kellogg Drive. I have heard that the applicant is requesting not a 350 square foot sign, but is requesting a 335 square foot sign. So is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Hearing none. Is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to hear this case?
There's no one here at Century 2 for this case.
Thank you. And is there anyone virtually that would like to hear this case? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for action.
I move for approval for items 2 and 3, 3 being revised to 335 square foot sign.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Hartman, second by Mr. Nix. Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. We will adjourn the BZA meeting and go back and open the Planning Commission agenda. So first item on the agenda is zone case 00040.
Conditional use case 2020-40.
Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon, Planning Commissioners. Philip Zievenbergen with Planning Staff. Conditional use 2020-40 is an application requesting a conditional use to allow group residence limited on a property zone SF5 single-family residential. As you can see on your map, it's located on the south side of West Maple and about a half mile east of South Meridian, located at 1825 West Maple. The purpose of this request is convert the two-story residence, which is 8 bedrooms, to a care facility for foster children. The zoning code defines group residence limited as a residence that is occupied by 6 to 15 persons, including staff members who reside at the facility. A group residence is defined as a residential facility providing cooking, sleeping, and sanitary accommodations for a group of people not defined as a family on a weekly or longer basis. A children's home being an excellent example of what a group residence limited is. A group residence is not a group home, which is generally, it's something usually licensed by the state for individuals with disabilities. It is also not a correctional placement facility, so these are not necessarily juvenile delinquents or people being placed in here with some sort of record with the law or anything like that. It's just straight up foster care. The intent of the facility is to house 6 school-aged children for long-term or emergency overnight placement. In addition, there will be 2 full-time staff at all times who will also reside at the facility. I can defer to the applicant, but my guess is there's probably a host of staff who will, have shifts, not necessarily have 2 there all the time, but there will always be 2 staff members present, and they will also be there overnight, caring for the children in the home. The site plan that was attached to the staff report shows that there is going to be no changes to the facility. If you go to the aerial image, Paul, you can see that it's a little hard to see, but there's a fairly larger home, and there's some a little bit of a backyard space and some paved area with a very long driveway on the east side. They intend no changes to the facility whatsoever. Information provided by the applicant. You also received an email from me earlier this week with some of that information for your consideration. States that the home was originally built in 1907 by the Christian Service League, which then became the Kansas Children's Service League, and it was used by then until 1970. After 1970, the home has been used for a wedding venue, a girls' foster care facility, and a bed and breakfast, being the most recent application. The Unified Zoning Code requires 1 space per bedroom. The site can accommodate 8 spaces, 4 of which will be along the long driveway. There are standards in which when you have a linear space like that, how much feet you need per space in order to allow people to get in and out. And then they can use the back area. If we go to the site plan, Paul, there's space in the back off of the alley. This is oriented, so north is to the left. So to the right is the south part of the property and the backyard. There's an alleyway that they can access the backyard. It's already paved, and there's enough space for the additional 4 parking spaces, so they can accommodate all the required parking. It is understood that most of these children, number one, may not be even old enough to drive, and number two, it all depends on the care facility and, kind of the foster care system. If they are eligible to drive, whether or not they actually have vehicles, most likely not. So though it can accommodate 8 spaces and be in compliance with the zoning code, they may not even have to use all 8. The character of the surrounding area is a mix of residential densities, anywhere from single-family residential. There's a property to the north that's zoned single-family residential to church. You guys got a support letter from them indicating that they're completely in favor of this use happening. There is TF3 zoning to the west, but it's a single-family home. Northwest across the intersection is MF18 zoning, and it has a quadplex. The property is within the Delano Overlay District, which requires that if any significant modifications happen to the exterior of the home, that it has to be reviewed and approved by the Design Review Committee. They don't intend to do so, but if they were to in the future, that governs the property. In 2005, a conditional use was approved for a bed and breakfast, as I mentioned before, and before that, there is no case history on it other than it being platted in 1887. The subject property has access to West Maple as well as South Glen, Glen being the street on the western side of the property. Both are paved, both have sidewalks on both sides. Municipal water and sewer do provide service to the site. The comprehensive plan identifies this area as appropriate for residential development, which reflects the full diversity of housing options and density. So this definitely fits in with the conformance to the comprehensive plan. It is also within the established central area, which the Places for People plan provides guidance for. It is within an area of opportunity, which is an area that generally exhibits economic challenges or a disconnected development pattern, where it calls for strategic investment in order to help revitalize and reinvigorate the area. It's within a transition zone between a couple nodes at West Kellogg and Meridian, and as well as Douglas Meridian. And a transitional area is somewhere that helps take the higher intensity uses and steps it down into the lower intensity uses in a residential area. So higher density residential is an appropriate use within a transition area. Staff is recommending approval subject to pretty standard conditions of one, operating within federal, state, and local requirements. And then if we find that there's any violation of the zoning code, that we can declare the conditional use null and void. The findings for this, we already discussed the zoning and the character of a neighborhood being of varying densities. This fits in within that. It's currently zoned SF5 and could be used as a single-family residence. However, it's had a history of being used for things of even higher density, or a bed and breakfast would have been, not necessarily a family living there, but just more transient nature. So something very compatible with what they're requesting to do. Group residence limited is permitted in SF5 with a conditional use. It would provide foster care children with a home-like setting, in addition to having the resident employees. With the presence of multifamily development in the immediate area, we find that it's an appropriate request for the conditional use. And the conditions within the conditional use will help mitigate any negative impacts on surrounding properties. The property has been occupied for some time. It is in the process of being purchased by Mr. Jantz. He's a contract buyer. The applicant is the current property owner, but it's looking to change hands. This is fairly normal, where they want to be able to make sure they can do what they want to do before they follow through with the sale. The proposed changes should create no significant impacts to the public health, safety, and welfare of the general area. We've already talked about the condition, or the conformance to the appropriate plans. There should be no adverse impacts to community facilities. And at the writing of the staff report, I haven't received any opposition. I just had one phone call, more just inquiring what it was all about and what group residence was and all of that. And they didn't seem to have any opinion necessarily either way. They were just curious. They saw the sign and wanted to know more information. So I can take you through some site pictures. Paul, if you just want to slowly cycle through them. This is the house. It's a beautiful home. It's been very well taken care of. You can keep going. This is looking to the east. That's looking south at the property. I'm standing in the church parking lot. You can keep going. This is looking southwest at the site. You can see there's a single-family home right next to it. This is the church I was talking about, north of the property. Keep going. This is the quadplex across the intersection on that is zoned MF18. And there may be one more. Yep, this is looking down Glen. You can see just the residential neighborhood that it fits in. So really should be an appropriate area to help house some foster care children. So with that, I can stand for any questions you have for staff.
Any questions for staff? Yes, Mr. Warren.
Phil, I just got one. The paperwork we've got here says it intends to be 6. What is the maximum that this property could support, and what are our rules and
I
regulations on
believe
that?
even the rules that govern foster care requires each child to have their own room.
Okay.
And so I think they're looking to max it out with this. Since it's an 8-bedroom house, you have the 6 kids plus the 2 employees.
That's what I need. Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions for staff? Hearing none, if we could have the agent or applicant, please. You have 10 minutes, and if you could state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Ken Jantz, and I am a retired school district principal, teacher, administrator. And working with the school district, we found a lot of needs for students who are taken out of their homes, such as the foster care kids, due to the parents' inability to take care of them or problems within the home. And yet, sometimes the placements that they go to are not always stable. Sometimes students get moved from residence to home to home to home. And what I would like to propose with this facility is that some of the foster care children can be provided a more stable home environment. It's close to Friends University. Friends is about 2 blocks away. Those students would be a possibility for coming to the residence after school to work with the students for tutoring, helping out in the evenings, doing activities with them. Across the street, we have Discovered Church, and they have also shared a letter of support, looking for community involvement, looking for ways to support the students. We're looking for these students to be supervised, to make sure that they do, they're learning, that they're going to be putting together a good work skills, learn how to cook. When you're pulled out of a home, a lot of times the homes they come from are extremely needy. They don't have the opportunity to learn to cook, to be on their own, to, learn take care of skills, how to shower sometimes. And so having somebody to help supervise and work through these with these kids in a caretaking situation would improve their lives, plus in the long run, help provide more stable citizens for Wichita. Along with me, we have Claire Willenberg, and I know that Bobby Armstrong, who is the agent representing the owner, are here. So Claire, could you speak as well?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, the agent for the applicant is having trouble getting on. I have him on the phone if anyone has a direct question for Bob Armstrong. I am Claire Willenberg. I'm agent for the buyer, and Ken Jantz is the prospective buyer. We have a contract subject to ability to get the change to allow foster care. Are there any questions for Bobby?
Do we have any questions from the commission for the agent, for either the agent for the buyer or the seller? Yes, Mr.
Yes.
Joel.
Yes. So tell me, who places these children in this home? Is it the state or local agency that does this?
The foster care facilities could be DCCCA or other foster care providers in Wichita. These students are coming from Wichita, they're Wichita kids, and they are placed by the foster care facilities, agencies.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Jantz? Hearing none, please stay online, the agents for this case. Is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to speak to this case?
For the folks at Century 2, I believe you're on mute, so you'll have to unmute your system to speak.
And if you could state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Clarence Sponsel. I'm actually here with my wife, Carol, and we live at 427 South Vine, Wichita, Kansas, which is in the same block where this house is. And some of the questions have been answered. Part of our question was the number of people that were going to be in the residence, the number of children in the residence, and the ages of the residents. And based on what I'm hearing is we're talking that all the children that are going to be placed in this residence are going to be mobile. Is that fairly true? Is that, and then the parking spaces available. I had a question on that, but it looks like they're taking the backyard of this property and putting in 4 spaces, 10 foot wide. And they're saying there's going to be parking space for 4 additional vehicles on the street side. The question is, what are the anticipated ages of the children? My concern and my wife Carol's concern is the impact on the neighborhood. The home had previously been used as a halfway house, and it sounds like this is not a far stretch from a halfway house because they're going to be able to have access to the neighborhood. They're going to be coming, they're going to be going. So basically what we're going to be doing with this zoning change is placing up to 6 problem children in the neighborhood that is just a nice little, it's a residential neighborhood with the college crowd. So we've got a lot of walk street traffic. We've got a lot of, because people feel safe in the neighborhood, and we would like to see that stay that way.
Okay, thank you for your questions. Are there any questions for the speaker, Mr. Warren?
Yes, sir. Based on what you're saying, I'm assuming that you would be okay with a family with 6 kids. Your opposition is just to foster kids?
It's the idea that you have, basically you're placing, yes, problem children into this environment, and they're going to be coming and going every day. And the idea that, and it would be so easy to go back in there and having more than the allowed number without, with no monitoring. And this is part of the problem. And I know the property's been sitting there for some time, hasn't been sold. So it's a problem, it's been a problem as far as being able to, what's the best use for this property?
Thank you.
I would like to say, it seems like to me, we're not talking about problem children. We're talking about problem homes and parents.
Children with problems.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you, Mr. Johnson. Is there any other questions for this speaker? Hearing none. Is there anyone else thank you for your testimony, sir. Is there anyone else at Century 2 that would like to speak to this case?
No one else at Century 2.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone virtually that would like to speak to this case? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the agent or applicant. Mr. Jantz, I know you heard the concerns of the neighbor. Do you have any response for that would help him?
Sure. First of all, I respect the neighborhood's concern. It's always good to raise the questions ahead of time and to kind of look forward to how can we work with this. I would just simply say, first of all, that I do have other rental property. I'm responsible for those. If there would be any concerns down the road, I would give out my phone number, give me a call. I will go in and address them. I don't want the neighborhood, pattern to be disrupted. At the same time, answering a couple of the other questions, the parking is actually in the driveway and the 4 spaces behind. Due to the zoning regulations, 1 parking space per room on site as opposed to along the street, there might be parking on the street down the road, but at this point, we are providing parking on the driveway. Anticipate only the 2 adults driving. These are school-aged children that we're looking forward to. In the past, I've had people come to me and say, would you be willing to have a foster care girls or foster care children or boys in along with my family to move in? And as SF5, a family could move in there as it is and have up to 4 foster care children, but it doesn't permit or allow for how that residence was built. It's been used for a bigger space. It's not a traditional house. That's kind of what I go back to. It really is ideally set up. It's in excellent condition for working with kids. They would have a space that's controlled, it's maintained, it's contained. There would be school busing coming into the neighborhood to take them to their elementary, middle, or high school, wherever they're going to school. That's just part of what the school district does to support. In the evenings or after school, when working with Friends University or just the in-house supervision, the kids are responsible for doing their homework. They are responsible for helping with meals. They would be responsible for where they are in the evening. And at the same time, there are activities that kids normally do. Normally they go outside in the backyard, which it's a private fenced backyard. And we would be installing gates across the back for the parking, but it is a fenced in backyard that would allow them to go in the backyard without disturbing the neighbors, out front or on the sides of the house. So we're looking for a contained area that is really conducive for this use.
Thank you, Mr. Jantz. I have one question that the speaker brought up, and that was the parking that you have that's going to be coming off of the alley. Is that currently paved, or is that yard?
It's currently paved. Believe it or not, it's a 40-foot by 25 with cement pad, and it's already paved.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a concern that the speaker had. Do we have any other questions? Yes.
I have a question
Ms. Fox?
for the applicant. How does the Department of Child Welfare monitor that you're sticking to the 1 child per bedroom and not exceeding the occupancy standards?
Gotcha. The residents, the agency that works with them does home inspections, but they're also the ones that place the foster care children. And so they would know that they could not place more than 6 long-term foster care kids there. I mean, that's just built into the agency's requirements based on what we provide them for the residents.
Thank you. And one more question. How do you, you said school-age children. Are you saying kindergarten through 12th grade, kindergarten through 8th grade? What, can you make that more specific?
I would say 4 through 18.
Okay.
Excuse me, 6 through 18. In looking at, we have met with the other planning commissioners as we were going through this process, and they've been extremely helpful talking us through what is required for this conditional zoning. The house is not built for little tiny kids. There would be multiple concerns for safety that you would have to do if they're ages 5 years or younger. And so the age bracket for foster care kids goes from 6 to 18. So that's what we would be looking at.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just a point of clarification, that I believe that conversations that you have been having have been with staff as opposed to with anybody sitting on the commission, but you wouldn't.
I'm sorry, that is correct.
And that's fine. I just wanted the record to reflect that we have had no commissioners working with you on this case. So
no, they have not.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions for the applicant? Yes, Mr. Nix.
No, I'm ready to make a motion.
Oh, well, let me bring it. Okay. So we have no more questions?
Jumping the gun.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jantz. Bring it back to the commission for action, Mr. Nix.
All right. I don't mean to editorialize, but I know we need these kind of facilities in this market in Wichita and the area. And I am the parent of a child who came out of the foster care system. So I know it's badly needed. It looks to me like it fits well in this neighborhood, so I would move that we approve item 4.1.
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, I've got 4 people that have seconded it. So I'll go with Mr. Nix and for the motion, and Ms. Fox for the second.
Thank you.
And
I would say these children are very lucky to have a couple like the Sponsels in their neighborhood who care about the neighborhood and look out for the neighborhood. And I would just say, I hope that this home will bring great joy to your neighborhood and a sense of home to these children who need people like you close by.
all right, yes, Mr. Bill Johnson.
Mr. Jantz's credentials are well suited for this project. It's a good use of the building. And I believe that I may have been adopted through this building through the Kansas Children's Service League.
I guess the other thing I want to say about the sponsors in that neighborhood, this is a conditional use, which is a whole lot more restrictive than just a zoning case where it would be zoned where they do this. So if it's not operated properly, they can lose their conditional use.
Thank you very much. Any other comments by the commission? All well said. We do have a motion on the floor. Is no further questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. If we could have our next case, CUP 2020-00049. It's an amendment to Kellogg Mall CUP DP 12 to modify parcel 1, and it's Ms. Morgan.
Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. As you can see on the screen, the parcel 1 is outlined in that green, so it is 76 acres. But what we are talking about, and Paul, can you go to the next slide, please? You can see in the center of the picture there, the actual county small building. To the left of that, there's the old Sears Auto Service Center. That building is vacant. Dillard's is on the north end of the mall building. The other white top roof building, that's where Sears was. And then what we're actually looking at on parcel 1, where the arrow is pointing, that's where Round 1 Bowling There's a bowling alley there now that's been operating. And so the amendment has to do, it does affect parcel 1, but in the language, it only affects the ancillary uses that are associated with the bowling alley. They have to get the entertainment event center in the city because they want to lease out the space for private parties. They want to have karaoke, and they do serve in the bowling alley. They have a malt beverage and alcohol. And so those things require it to be changed to nightclub in the city. As I said, this is an ancillary use to the bowling alley. So if the bowling alley ever goes away, then the amendment does not affect or let another business, nightclub business, go in that location, nor does it let a nightclub go in any other location in the mall building itself. Let's see, this is located, as you can see, on the east side, on the lower level, west side of the lower level of the existing mall building, down along Kellogg Drive and Town East Mall Drive. You have restaurants that serve mixed drinks and beer. There's a Bubba's, there's a Longhorn Steakhouse. I can't remember what else is there, but you have those types of uses in the area serving alcohol. Staff is recommending, because of, Paul, can you put up the zoning map, please? Okay, so on the north side of East Douglas, you have the Rockwood subdivision or neighborhood association, and then on the east side, you have the Bonnie Bray neighborhood association. But as I was telling you, the location of the actual nightclub use is going to be somewhere in that area where the arrow is pointing. Let's see, East Kellogg Drive is a 90-foot right-of-way. South Rock Road is a 145-foot right-of-way. East Douglas Avenue is a 90-foot right-of-way. And this project does conform to the community investment plans, which identifies this area as residential and employment. And this CUP has been in place since 1972. So this is a very stable area with these kind of commercial uses. It does also conform with the Wichita Places for People plan that promotes the keeping of stable areas of commercial activity. In your staff report, you have the proposed language to be changed in Parcel 1 and Parcel 2 and Parcel 3. You're looking at changes in square footage and the maximum land covered. But Parcel 1 is where all the language is contained about limiting the nightclub uses to the bowling alley only. So staff is recommending that this be approved, the amendment be approved, and it shall only apply to Parcel 1. Nightclub in the city expanded uses shall apply only to those ancillary uses associated with the existing bowling alley in use in the mall structure currently. All other requirements of the CUP remain in effect unless or until a separate zoning action is filed, and the applicant will submit 4 new CUP drawings upon approval of this action. So I will stand we did have quite a few, let me mention that. We did have a number of people that sent in emails, and I believe most of them were in the packet that you received. So,
Mr. Warren and then Mr. Hartman.
Kathy, the wording here in the proposal says recreation and outdoor entertainment is not permitted. In layman terms, there will be nothing outside, no music, no serving of tables.
That is correct.
Tables, serving, everything will be inside the mall proper and inside the bowling alley of the mall proper.
Right, that is correct.
Just want to make sure that was, in layman's terms, that was exactly what that was saying.
Yes.
Mr. Hartman?
Has this gone to the DAB boards?
No, it's going to the DAB on February 8th, which is just after the protest period ends, but we couldn't fit everything in to get it to the DAB before the protest period ends. So we have been in contact with Council Member Tuttle and also the two neighborhood associations about this process.
Any other questions from the commission for Kathy?
No, but I do want to disclose that I'm going to ex parte communications regarding this case.
Go ahead, Cindy, what was that?
I just want to disclose that I had ex parte communications regarding this case.
Okay. All right, thank you. And just a point of clarification, the reason why this is being labeled a nightclub is because of the potential of having music, i.e. karaoke, and that there is going to be cereal malt beverages and alcohol.
Right, and also the fact that a private individual can lease out space to host a private party.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions or comments? We'll take action. No, we won't either take action. Is there anyone, the agent or applicant is, if you are online, you have 10 minutes, and if you could state your name and address.
It's Joey.
That'd be Mr. Lindeback.
It's Joey Denicky. He might have his, I did too.
I see Brian on there. His mic has been muted.
Yeah, I didn't see Mike on there.
Hey, Joey Denicky is going to be presenting this case. This is Brian Lindeback, 411 North Webb Road, on behalf of the applicant. So, Joey, you can take it from here.
Yes, Joey Denicky, MKEC 411 North Webb Road, agent on behalf of applicant. We are in agreement with staff comments. I also wanted to run through a quick presentation just to kind of explain what we're after on this establishment. Paul, if you could pull that up, please. Next slide. As Ms. Morgan stated, this is an amendment for the CUP, although we set it up as more of a conditional use where, she stated that it only applies to round one entertainment. There's not any intent to have anything close to a nightclub outside of this establishment. And if this business goes away, the use of nightclubs would go away as well. Although typically when you think of the word nightclub, you think of a large building with dancing, singing, alcohol, and it's going throughout all hours of the evening. Well, this is not the intended use for this site. In fact, it's been going on. It's had permitted uses with the bowling alley, party rooms, arcades, and things like that. It's been going on since the summer. What they're wanting to bring online with this amendment is actually the capability to have a karaoke component, which would be brought into the party rooms themselves, and And I'll just kind of explain that as we kind of go through these slides, kind of what they're after. So next slide, please. I kind of wanted to say, I'd encourage, if you haven't already been out there, just to go visit the site. You'll see that it's a family entertainment center. It's not a typical nightclub scene. It's geared towards all ages, kids to adults, just to go out and have a good time. I really encourage you to visit the site. Next slide, please. So like I stated, what they've had going on there since late this summer, they have a bowling alley, arcade, dining, billiards, and they do have 2 party rooms, which is just a component of the overall establishment. And what they're wanting to bring online is this karaoke component within these party rooms. And that's per the zoning standards, that's what's with combination of all the other, dining and alcohol, it's bringing it into a nightclub zoning classification. Next slide, please. So just kind of wanted to go through some pictures of what you would see on the inside of this facility. Here's the bowling alley. As you can see, they have full-size bowling lanes. Next slide. Here's some more bowling pictures as well as the arcade area. Next slide. This is a more arcade area, which is just so happens to be the largest in Wichita, over 250 arcade games. So you can clearly see this is the primary use for the establishment. They just have a combination of other entertainment accessories as well. Next slide. More of the gaming area. Next slide. And again, just another example of what's kind of going on in the facility. Next slide. They also have kind of they call it victory zone, where you can exchange tickets for prizes, as you're playing those games. Next slide. Same thing. These are some of the prizes that are in there. Next slide. So along with the entertainment, they also have some dining within there. So if you can grab some food or something to drink while you're playing games or bowling. Next slide. Next slide. And also they do have a full bar for patrons over 21. Next slide. And here's kind of example of their pool table area that they have. Next slide. So the next few slides, you'll kind of see these are the 2 party rooms that are currently there, and they are in operational right now. And it allows private parties or small get-togethers for family and friends, for maybe it's a birthday party or just a group of friends after work can get together in these rooms. Next slide. And this is just an example of the party room. And here, this is where they're wanting to bring in the karaoke component. So it's just to allow, some individuals to be able to, sing at karaoke and get together and just have a good time. I also wanted to say that there's a max capacity of 40 occupants per party room. And also that round 1 prohibits alcohol in these party rooms. Next slide. So here's another picture of just the party room that you'll see. And so you can clearly see this is not a typical nightclub, dance hall or anything like that. It's a small component to the overall business where they just want individuals to be able to go somewhere and be able to sing and have a good time and just kind of have a little small get together. Next slide. So I think it's important to note that round 1 has taken a lot of safety measures with this business. They put up signs, they have security, they do door checks, they have ID checks and curfews and kind of their overall rules. Next slide. So here you'll see that their house rules they have kind of established. You'll walk in and you'll see the sign Basically, they're just trying to keep all the crime and anything bad that could potentially happen out of here, because they're wanting it to be a safe environment for kids and families and just individuals so they can have a good time. Next slide. Here you'll see another sign just telling you that alcohol is not permitted outside of the limits of their establishment. Next slide. Here they have the computerized device where it actually it helps them check IDs and be able to tell the age of individuals, and then they put wristbands on those individuals. Next slide. Here you'll see kind of their additional security that they have in place. In fact, they hire a private security team outside of the mall hours that are there for the facility just during the duration of their hours. Next slide. Here you'll see they have curfews set in place just to limit, younger individuals for being in there, over the length of time that they should be. Next slide. So as Ms. Morgan stated, when we originally filed this application, we filed it for parcel 1, which is kind of unique because it's such a large parcel of land. And so naturally, we had to notify 1,000 feet out to all the neighborhoods surrounding this parcel. Next slide. So it notified over 350 owners. So we got a lot of feedback and concerns in regards to this nightclub component. I think a lot of individuals were worried that there's going to be another nightclub in the vacant parking lots or other areas of this parcel. So we worked with staff. Next slide. And this is just the notification. Next slide. So as Ms. Morgan noted, that we've worked with staff to kind of limit this to round 1 facility only. So we put this in place, and basically, like I said, if this subject business goes away, the nightclub use will go away. So it's only for round 1 entertainment. Next slide. And here we actually kind of define general limits of round 1, just showing that it's not intended for anything to be outside of these limits. Next slide. We also heard of other concerns from the neighborhood, one being crime. Well, like I previously stated, round 1 has done a great job. They have additional security, and they've taken some other safety measures as well, just to keep a safe environment for individuals or family members to go here. I think also noise was brought up. Like mentioned, there's no outdoor entertainment. It's strictly within the building of the mall. And also to note, the closest residence is over 700 feet, and which is actually east of Rock Road, which is buffered by the majority of the mall itself. And traffic, I think, was brought up. Well, as you know, the mall has a lot of other businesses, so there is, it's an area of higher traffic. This is just one tenant space, and it's been. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, your 10 minutes have expired. Do you need like another minute to kind of wrap it up?
Just one more minute, all I need.
Looks like you're about ready to wrap it up there.
Yep, thank you. And yeah, like I said, there's good access to Kellogg and Rock Road and major thoroughfares. Another issue was brought up about trash. Well, this is indoor facility, and it's for the mall itself, so there's designated receptacles for the tenant space. And next slide. And just with that, I just welcome any questions. I just want to leave it at that, this is a family entertainment event center. It's not a typical nightclub. And we think it's a good use for the mall, and it should stimulate a lot of growth for the surrounding businesses. So I'll welcome any questions. And also I will say there is a individual with round 1 that can answer any other questions about the facility itself if needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the commission for Joey here? I've got, yes.
I just want to make sure
Ms.
you
Fox.
said the party rooms cannot have alcohol in them.
Correct.
It's
per round one's requirement. Round
so
one
if my
prohibits
group
that.
of 25-year-old college kids were in that room, they couldn't have alcohol in the party room, but they could sing karaoke.
Correct.
Thank you. Until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a couple, and they may be more for the representative from round one, but how many lanes? I didn't even know there was a bowling alley in there, for one. And looks like there may be, I was trying to count the ball returns, looked like there may be 6 ball returns. So is it like 12 lanes? 10 or 12 lanes in the facility?
I'll let Mr. Takeuchi answer some of these questions.
And then the karaoke, I was on the website, and it appears as though you're already kind of marketing the potential for karaoke currently. And then I just
Hi, good afternoon. Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
go ahead, but
Are you with round one?
is it okay? Yes.
Yeah.
My name is Steven Takeuchi. Round one, 3070 Saturn Street, 200, Brea. That's B as in Bravo, R as in Romeo, E as in Echo, A as in Alpha, California, 92821. To answer your first question, we have 8 bowling lanes available in our facility.
And then it appears as though you're advertising for the karaoke currently?
Yes, we're advertising, but we have not put them in actually, the equipment is not even in our facility yet. We're waiting for the okay from the city to put it in place. But we do advertise because I think we just started out with a general template of our, PR when we opened a store. So we forgot to take that out beforehand.
Okay. And then just a point of clarification, access to round one is internal through, you have to go through the mall, or is there an external access point to the parking lot?
We have both. So on the first slide of the presentation, you saw our parking lot entrance, but we also have access from the mall as well. But the mall door closes when the mall closes.
Okay, thank you. All right, are there any other questions?
Hi, Mr. Green.
Yes, Mr. Dewell.
Yeah, I'm a little confused. What activity are you seeking approval for that you're not currently doing there? I see that there's a bar in there, so if you could explain the need for a nightclub.
Yeah, Kathy, could you?
Yes, excuse me, because they're having karaoke is considered live entertainment. And so that is what is triggering the nightclub uses. As the agent and applicant have said, the karaoke can only be done in the party rooms. It will not be in the bar area or anywhere else within that facility.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the commission? At least none at this point. Is there, I know that there have been some people, or there are some people at Century 2 that would like to address this case. If we could have those people state your name and address for the record, and if you could limit, at least at this point, we have not heard anybody comment, but if you could limit your comments to concerns and issues that have not already been addressed. Obviously, right now, we have not heard any comments or complaints about concerns with this case. But try not to be repetitive when it's your turn. If we could have the first speaker from Century 2, please.
Yeah, actually, we have no one at Century 2 for this case.
Oh, okay, my mistake. Then if we could go to anyone virtually that would like to address the commission on this case. If you could state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Stacy Moore. I live at 7 North St. James Place in Eastboro. I'm currently the mayor of Eastboro. Are you hearing me, by the way?
Yes, we are. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Okay, outstanding. I just want to talk on behalf of your neighbor city. We technically have obviously no oversight of any zoning in Wichita, but as a close neighbor, the only statement I would make is that we're concerned we deal with a lot of enforcement with our police force in that generalized area, and we back up the city of Wichita, and we help tremendously with that area. And we're concerned with giving the latitude of a nightclub to a place that's so close to where we are. When I first moved to Wichita, I used to go to Club Rodeo, and over the years, watched it deteriorate into what it became. And I think there's a lot of people that are concerned with the latitude given to this, and I understand the constraints that are trying to be placed on it. But I would ask if the concept is the live entertainment coupled with alcohol use, when it's being separated in the building, why a nightclub would even have to be overlaid onto this. And the zoning seems a little bit of an odd mismatch for this area, given the residential neighborhood and where it's located. And as stated previously by the staff, this has been a stable location since the 70s. And the people that bought in this region have an understanding with the city, I believe, that this would not be a zoning that would be allowed in this area. So that pretty much sums up my interest. We did submit a resolution from the city council. I've had many phone calls on this, many concerned people, and I think you're going to hear from them shortly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Are there any questions for the speaker? Hearing none, I think the only thing that it just kind of an immediate reaction to your comments there was the reason for the zoning is because there's going to be quote unquote live entertainment with the karaoke, and they are serving alcohol in the bowling center. So that is why the nightclub designation for the zoning is.
May I bring up a concern, please?
Wait, and I would
Hello?
reiterate that there is no alcohol allowed in the area where the karaoke is allowed.
True. Okay, if we could have the next speaker, please. You have 3 minutes, and if you could state your name and address for the record.
I guess that's me. Barbara Kiefer, 74 South Stratford Road, Eastboro, Kansas. But I do back up. I'm within that circle that you draw. And my concern, you've answered a lot of questions, and I appreciate that. And I share the Eastboro and the neighborhood concerns. But is there any flexibility in why the hours have to go to 2 a.m.? I mean, if there's no alcohol and it's just karaoke, does it really have to be open till 2 a.m.? Is there any flexibility in the hours?
Okay, is that, do you have any other concerns or questions?
No, I'll leave the rest of my issues with the mayor.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. Are there any questions for the speaker? Hearing none, thank you for your testimony, and if we could have the next speaker, please. name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
This is Larry Duntz. I'm the president of the Rockwood Homeowners Association. I live at 7524 Rockwood.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess I've had many calls, as did the mayor of Eastboro, about people, and the primary concern is this late night hours causing traffic at an hour driving through the that would cause issues with traffic, crime, noise, all of the above. So our concern and my concern, I represent about 300 homes in Rockwood, which is just due north of Town East. And the concern is today, anything that's in Town East typically is done and gone away with by bedtime. But if you start keeping things open until 2 a.m. In a party environment, that you're going to have issues with people late hours coming through the neighborhood when it's going to cause noise and traffic issues.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the commission that has any questions for the speaker? Hearing none, thank you for your testimony, Mr. Duntz. We'll get those hours of operation concerns addressed when we turn the meeting back over to the agent once everybody has had a chance to talk to this case. So is there anyone else who would like to address the commission on this case?
Yes, Sam Lindeman.
I'm sorry, could you say your name again, please?
Sam Lindeman.
Lindeman?
Bonnie Bray Homeowners Association. I live at 8001 Morningside. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much, Mr. Lindeman.
My big issue, I don't understand. Number one, I didn't even realize they had a bar that was open. And if the bar and the party room aren't connected and aren't going to be going together, why are we even doing this? If it's a separate location, they could surely have karaoke in there and just don't have liquor in that area, it seems like to me. And that would solve all the problems.
That's point well made. Unfortunately, they're all under the same roof. So, Sam, is that all that you have?
That's the main thing. It just seems crazy. We're doing all this just because they're adding karaoke. I just don't see that being a major issue. It just seems crazy.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lindeman. Are there any questions for the speaker? Hearing none, and thank you again, Mr. Lindeman, for your testimony. Is there anyone else out there that would like to address the commission on this case? Last call for anyone that would like to address this case. Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the agent or applicant for 2 minutes of rebuttal. It appears as though a couple of the issues are the hours of operation and the limits of your live entertainment.
Yes, thank you. So I think two big concerns I've really heard was, the hours of operation. I just want to clarify that these are the current facility hours of operation. Regardless if the karaoke is brought online, that's their hours of operation that they have in place. Also, I wanted to note that it appears that there's no other parcel within the CUP that has any kind of restrictions on their hours of operations, and that's including the mall itself. And then also to kind of go along with the bar use, I think I should have clarified, but all these uses are within the building or the facility itself of round one. They just have different areas within that facility that have those uses. So in my mind, it's a lot like a restaurant where you kind of have a dining area and then you kind of have a bar area for the alcohol. And, for this, they also have the pool tables, the bowling alley, the arcades area, as well as the party rooms. And just to clarify, there's no alcohol permitted within those party rooms. And I think I've already kind of talked about the nightclub, how, in our mind, this doesn't seem like a typical nightclub use. It's just once they brought this karaoke online where they just, they have these 2 rooms where they want to be able to sing. It's putting it into the next classification as a nightclub, but it's not a typical nightclub. It's more of a family entertainment center for just family members and individuals to have a good time. So with that, I'll take on any other questions if there are some.
Mike?
Thank you, Joey. Yeah, Mr. Hartman?
For Joey. Hey, Joey, what is the maximum occupancy for this facility?
I'll let the representative touch on that real quick.
Hello, sorry, I was on mute on my phone, so. But our maximum occupancy for this facility is 1,082 persons.
Okay. And if you could clarify for us, Stephen, your hours of operation. The slideshow indicated that you could be open as late as 2 a.m. Is that correct? I mean, is that what you're doing now, or?
So to clarify that, so most of our stores all over the nation are 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. However, due to some COVID restrictions, we're limiting our store hours currently from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay. And then you anticipate those later hours of operation if the restrictions are lifted, the COVID restrictions?
Eventually, yes, we would like to pursue the 2 a.m. hours.
Okay, but do you also have an age restriction then for those hours?
Yes, we do.
After midnight? Okay.
Yeah.
All
it's the curfew or our house rules for that Joey presented in his presentation.
Okay. Are there any other questions for the agent or applicant here from the commission? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for action. Yes, Mr. Bill Johnson.
I'd like to move to approve per staff comments. The bar's already there, the bowling alley's already there, the occupancy is probably the same. To add karaoke, I know it has to be under a nightclub. I probably don't agree with that either, but that's the way it's wrote, and I think maybe we need to do some work on that where maybe we can break that down some so it don't create this problem, but traffic or any of this, I don't see being a problem with Kellogg and Rock Road and so forth, so I moved to approve.
Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Mr. Hartman on the second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Mr. Warren?
Yeah, this obviously is something totally different than what you normally think of when the term nightclub comes up. This does not fit anything within that realm from that standpoint. Even if it was, one of the things that we look at when we're looking at something like a nightclub is buffer space. In my 10 years on the planning commission, I've never seen a piece of property that had more buffer space from it to the neighborhoods that are around it than this one has gotten. This is a long ways away from residential neighborhoods, much closer to Rock Road, much closer to Kellogg than it is to any of the neighborhoods, and there are businesses around it that help buffer it. So this has got as much buffering as I've ever seen of anything that we've ever approved in my 10 years on the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Any other comments on the motion? It's been moved and seconded to approve per staff comment. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for, moving on to our next case here, 4.4 PUD 2020-00013. Mr. Phillip.
Thank you for not attempting my last name.
Zevenberger.
Close, Zevenbergen.
There you go.
I give you props for trying. Some people don't even try. Again, good afternoon. Philip Zevenbergen with planning staff. PUD 2020-13 is a zone change for portions of a development that is going in on South Rock Road, just south of East 33rd Street. If you recall, to the last Planning Commission meeting, we had something very similar to this on the west side of Wichita, where the developer, Mr. Russell, is looking to rezone a portion of a subdivision that he is developing, this portion being an undeveloped portion, just like the other one. He's requesting a rezone to PUD, planned unit development, to allow accessory apartments by right, as well as allow one non-resident employee to be allowed for home occupations. They are mutually exclusive. You would not need an accessory apartment to have a home occupation. You would not need to even have, you don't need one for the other. Like some could have an accessory apartment and have no home occupations, or you could have no accessory apartment and have a home occupation. They don't really tie together. They're just, they're mutually exclusive. The development here was platted as the RF edition. The subdivision, if you were to drive into it, is called the Rocky Ford subdivision. You can see it on there. It has already started to be developed. The limited commercial zone section, which is in red right off of Rock Road, is actually developed as duplexes. And then the next segment that you see that's actually zone TF3 to family zoning, they've already started to build. Most of those are already built out. That is built out as single family homes. Anything that you don't see with the outlines, this does not apply to you. This is basically the entire back half where certain properties are currently zoned to family and other properties on the very back half of it, which are in white, are zoned single family residential. Just a clarification, the way it's currently zoned, the subject properties that are zoned TF3, though it has historically in this area been developed as single family homes, people could come in and build a duplex. So that's two dwelling units on 65 of the lots. You could build a duplex on and have two dwelling units. Very similar to building an accessory structure or accessory apartment would provide another dwelling unit. So 65 of the lots, this really isn't changing a lot of what could be done today. The back half, which is zoned single family residential, which is 115 of the lots, this is what really provides some of the change to. In TF3 and SF5, an accessory apartment is required or requires a conditional use. So this is why the zoning action is coming into play. The PUD is going to restrict all of the lots as if they were single family residential. So you're actually downzoning, in a sense, downzoning the two family zoned lots to only allow single family residential development in addition to the accessory apartment. So instead of having two equal, I guess, dwellings, you would have a primary dwelling and a potentially accessory dwelling instead, if that makes sense. One of the other differences with this case versus the last one, as currently zoned, the TF3 lots do allow one non-resident employee. So if it stays the same, if this zoning action does not go through, whether it's zoned, whether developed as duplexes or single family homes, the two-family zoned properties do allow one non-resident employee for a home occupation. So that does not change whether or not this PUD is approved or not. It would change what is allowed in the SF5 zone properties. SF5 properties do not allow a non-resident employee for home occupation. Nothing in regards to the types of home occupations that are allowed is changing. All of those stay the same. There's no difference between TF3 and SF5 in terms of what is allowed as a home occupation. It would just be allowing one non-resident home employee for the home occupation. To that point, the current homes that are developed in TF3, even though they're single-family homes, are allowed to have one non-resident employee if they have a home occupation. Even though they're not part of the PUD, they're actually kind of being afforded the same opportunity, even though they're not part of the PUD. Just a clarification. So moving on, details about the PUD. Again, it would allow accessory apartments, whether they're inside of the dwelling, and actually at your desk, you do have a floor plan that was provided to me by the agent of a possible floor plan individuals could decide to build, as their menu of floor plans the developer offers. They are providing a casita, as they call it, where it's, they could just choose to do it from the very get-go. So you could either and those show you ones that are included within the existing structure, so you wouldn't even see that there's an additional dwelling on the property. So they can be part of the existing structure, or they could be built as an accessory structure somewhere in the backyard. All of the regulations governing accessory apartments, as the zoning code stipulates right now, will be in effect, and that's written into the PUD language. So they have to adhere to all the proper setbacks for accessory structures. They also have to adhere to the supplemental use regulations, which limit it to one accessory apartment per lot. The appearance of the accessory apartment has to be compatible with the existing structure and the character of the neighborhood. So you can't necessarily build something that's completely out of left field that doesn't fit with the rest of the houses. The accessory apartment would remain accessory and has to stay under the same ownership, so you can't sell it off and have some sort of condominium thing going on. And water and sewer service have to stay under the same account. You can't have separate public services to the accessory apartment. You can have separate services for electricity, TV, phone, whatever. We went through the home occupation with the additional non-resident employee. So again, as a clarification, if you had a home office, if you ran your office, maybe you could have an administrative assistant come work in your home with you, or maybe another colleague. If you ran a daycare, you could have somebody help you come, operate your daycare. The surrounding areas, as you can see on the zoning, we've already kind of touched on it. It's a mix of densities. We've already touched on the duplexes that are built in the limited commercial zoning. We've touched on the single-family residences that are built in the two-family zoning. To the north, there's limited commercial and SF20 residential, and that's in Sedgwick County. And it is, most of it is undeveloped property, agricultural land. There's large lot single-family residential in the SF20 zone properties. Property to the east is zone SF20 and is agricultural land. Property to the south is also zone SF20 and is large lot single-family or agricultural land as well. There needs to be a correction in your staff report. I said that the TF3 zone properties that are currently being constructed were duplexes. They're not, they're single-family homes. I've said that 3 times now in the presentation, but I just want to go on record saying there needs to be a correction to the staff report. Case history in here, there's only been one zoning action. In 2017, a portion of the RF edition, which is what we're talking about now, and the RF second edition, which is the current TF3 zone property. In 2017, it was actually zoned to TF3. It wasn't originally zoned. I think it was zoned for single-family residential, and the developer came in and actually rezoned it in 2017 to allow duplex development. Even though that hasn't come to fruition, they've only been doing single-family homes. It wasn't necessarily an afterthought, or it was an afterthought to rezone it to allow a higher density development in the area. Other than that, the RF edition was recorded in May 2019, so it's a fairly recent plat. Regarding public services, South Rock Road is a paved 4-lane arterial with open ditches. The street network within the entire subdivision is, local streets that are paved. You can see that 33rd Street is the only access point for the entire thing. I do not have the plat in here, but I looked it up. There are 3 contingent street dedications. One on the north, which if you're looking at the screen right now, the very north property line, that first kind of outlined square, you can see that there's kind of a double line there. There's actually a Reserve B. That's one of the contingent street dedications to the north, right there, yep. On the east, it's where that cul-de-sac goes to the SF20 zone property to the east. And on the south, there's that large white area on the southeast corner. It's basically right on the south property line where the lots start to go west. So there are 3 contingent street dedications. Even if all of these properties were to do an accessory apartment and you technically have double the density, it meets the fire code in terms of emergency access. So I know that was a question that was brought up with the last one of like, okay, it was brought in for single family, now they're potentially adding additional dwellings. How are people going to, is this going to have any issues with access? In terms of the fire code, given the possible density, it still meets their requirements for fire code for access because of the contingent dedications that are on the 3 sides, providing future access if streets were to be built there. Municipal water and sewer are available and need to be extended as development continues. Regarding the comprehensive plan, the future growth map identifies the area for new residential, which encompasses residential uses of all densities and types. It's not necessarily identified just as single family. So overall, staff is recommending approval, subject to the conditions that they record a certificate with the Register of Deeds stating that this tract has special conditions for development. As we talked about with the PUD from the last Planning Commission meeting, and Phil Meyer, the agent, can touch on this as well. Mr. Russell is going to be using this as a marketing tool, especially with the possible floor plans available when it comes to individuals purchasing these properties, understanding what they're buying into. The initial front, well, there is a marketing effort. It should be fairly well known for individuals buying into this area that this is a possibility to have, an additional dwelling unit in your neighbor's yard or something like that. And that certificate will come up on title work for any future sales, and it's up to individual land or property owners to do their due diligence, to look through their title work as they're looking to close on properties, to know where they're buying and what special conditions there are in the area. Our findings for our recommendation are the zoning and character of the neighborhood. There's a portion of this that could be built as duplexes with 2 dwelling units per lot. Again, there needs to be that correction in that finding that's taken from the previous paragraph. The TF3 zone properties can have 1 non-resident employee, so that's not changing anything if this zoning does not go through. The PUD, again, will allow more flexibility. One, restrict it down to SF5 zoning to be uniform, but then it provides a little bit more flexibility with the accessory apartments and the non-resident employee for home occupations. It is unlikely that all of the properties would have the accessory apartment or a home occupation. I can let the agent delve into those statistics like you did with the last meeting. These properties were previously agricultural land and are now being developed with residential properties. The changes would create no issues with the public safety and welfare, given the governing language of the PUD text. And as I said before, even if it were to double the density in this area, it still would meet the fire code had it been platted this way from the beginning. Impact to the community facilities. There are no anticipated significant adverse impacts to community facilities in terms of the street network or other infrastructure that would have to serve the properties. As of the writing of the staff report, I have received multiple phone calls. You have a couple of letters of opposition. One's in your staff report. I provided a couple more to you that I received after we mailed it to you for your consideration. There was some confusion a little bit as to what was going to be in there. Some people thought it was going to be apartment complexes. So there's a lot of explaining that staff had to do in regards to just addressing what actually was going to be happening and what actually can happen on the properties right now, given how they are zoned. I can go through the site photos. There's really not a lot to see because most of those streets actually haven't even been built yet. But we can take a quick look. There's only 4 of them anyway. Actually, Paul, if you go to the PUD drawing, go one more. I should mention that there are 8 properties that are not included in this. They're the ones in gray on your screen because they are currently purchased by private owners and the developer does not own them anymore, so he cannot apply this zoning to them unless they were part of the application. Okay, now we can go to the site photos. I'm down in the southwest corner of it, and again, the majority of the streets that you see on the plat don't exist yet. So this is looking east at, they're starting to build the street network, but there's no homes built. Can keep going, Paul. This is looking north. The homes that you see are in a portion of the development that does not apply to the PUD. They are already currently built. That's the TF3 zone properties, but they're single family homes. Keep going. Looking northwest, again, there's one of the drainage ponds that's part of the plat. Keep going. This is looking south with the hedgerow between these properties and the SF20 zone properties to the south. And this is looking west. Again, those houses that are built there are not part of the PUD. They're in the RF second edition, and they're single family homes and 2-family zoning. And I think there's one, oh, that's it. So with that, I can stand for any staff questions.
Any questions for staff? Mr. Hartman and then Mr.
Can you go back to the zoning slide, Philip?
Mm-hmm. Paul, can you back up? There you go.
Looks a little strange. Why is there a light commercial strip just to the north of this property surrounded by SF20? That doesn't seem like a logical.
I don't know. It's not part of the application area. So
you don't know what that is?
I don't know. I was out there when I took pictures. I'm not sure that parcel has been developed yet, even though it's zoned limited commercial. I don't know the history behind the limited commercial zoning of that strip to the north. But again, it's not part of the application area, so I didn't look that far.
Is that part in the city?
No, that's county.
That is county?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the dark gray north of 33rd and on the west side of Rock Road is the Air Force Base.
Thank you. Mr. Warren?
I don't know the story behind the long strip there, but that there's a landscaping business on the
North
that little
side.
square. Is that Hong's Landscaping? So I don't know if there's any connection between those or not. Certainly over the last year, we've seen the number of people working from home having an accessory building for, as a marketing tool that I think is we're going to see a lot of it going forward. My question, and I was trying to skim through this again to see what it does an accessory apartment like this, regardless of whether it's used for home office or for separate living, does it trigger anything for additional parking? My concern is that we're gonna put an apartment in here and there's gonna be at the minimum one more car, and what are we forcing that car onto the street? And so I'm concerned about that.
That's a good question. Accessory apartments do not have a parking requirement. The parking requirement for single-family dwelling, and I think even 2-family dwelling, is 1 space per dwelling. And so going through here, typical homes these days when they're brand new are at least 2 or 3 car garages. So you count the spaces inside the garage plus the spaces in the driveway, you're anywhere from 4 to 6 spaces per unit. Per dwelling, if they're developed with a 2 or 3 car garage. And so you're looking at anywhere from 4 to 6 times the parking requirement already provided on site just for the single family home. So hard to say, because obviously not everybody just drives 1 car. Typically you have a married couple with a family, you could have, 2 or 3 cars per family. But again, in terms of actually being in compliance with the zoning code, they're well over the requirement for the lot, and accessory apartments do not require any additional parking.
Thank you.
Off-street, anyway.
Any other questions for Philip? The only question I have is, one of our letters that we received, is there something that with this ADU designation that would prevent the dwelling to be a rental and, short-term, long-term rental unit that would, and if so, are there issues that need to be brought in to?
That's also a good question. The city does not, in terms of the zoning code, does not regulate whether something is occupied by people who own or whether they rent it out. That is handled on the private agreement basis in their covenants. I'm not privy to what these covenants have in them in the for the HOA. Maybe Phil Meyer, the agent for the applicant, can speak towards that. But private agreements, private covenants can restrict rentals. So it's a possibility that they could have something in place that would restrict any renting. I do not know if that's in place right now.
Okay, if they did have rentals, but it would not change anything that we would be concerned with.
The PUD doesn't, it's not, I can't say it's not germane to the PUD, because you're right, that's been a major concern of people, is that these are just going to be built and be short-term rentals. Something like an Airbnb or a VRBO or something like that. But again, the zoning code doesn't regulate rentals, so we couldn't write in the PUD that there's no rentals, because that means it falls on us to enforce. And we just aren't in the business of enforcing that. So that falls really on the neighborhood and the HOA. If they currently allow rentals, then it would be allowed. If they don't, or if they would like to change that, they can change their covenants.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Philip? Hearing none, if we could have the agent or applicant, you state your name and address for the record, and you have 10 minutes.
Good afternoon, Phil Meyer with Boffman Company, agent for the applicant. Address is 315 Ellis, Wichita, 67211. This is, and we did one of these 2 weeks ago on the west side of town. I have the same presentation I'm doing today. I will do that again for the benefit of any neighbors that are listening to this and trying to figure out what we're doing here. But in essence, this basically is we're trying to do a mother-in-law's house as an available option for somebody buying a new lot. These units or these mother-in-law houses would be maximum 600 square feet. They range between, depending on which one you do, they'd be somewhere between 480 and 600 square feet. And it would be between the front door and off to the side of the garage, creating a little courtyard between this mother-in-law house and the front door and the garage that's there. This is probably a result of COVID. Jay's doing this in multiple subdivisions to try it. If you have been working at home, this would give you a place to escape the house and go work. If you homeschool your children, you can use cross the courtyard and do your schooling. This could be for your relatives. You could have a college kid that chooses to live in this while they're going to a local college. It could be an art studio, man cave, something like that. But what's most important is it's not a rental. It's not there to rent out to somebody else. It is there for your family. So if you have your mother-in-law living with you, she's going to be in the basement right now or on the first floor with you. She could be in this. We don't know how popular these are going to be. I would be surprised if 30% of the total lots built one of these, but again, it's an option that's out there for people if they choose to do that. We're not worried about parking on these. We've got at least 4 off-street parking spaces. many times 5 or 6. Again, we assume that the individual living in this casita would be living inside the house if they don't purchase this option. So Jay has told me he's been in communication with the HOA. He is presently working to revise the restrictive covenants so that rentals aren't allowed. This is a unique situation on this property for Planning Commission. All of the property that's zoned TF3 today, all those duplexes, we could do this today and rent them out. So when we get done with this PUD, we're actually going to eliminate that option. So beneficial maybe for the development, but all of that property used to be zoned industrial, got down zoned to TF3. Now Jay's developing it as single family. So this PUD would make the entire development cohesive with SF5 uses. With that, I'll stop and answer any questions that planning commissioners may have.
Do you have any questions for the agent? Yes, Mr. Warren?
Okay, Phil, so what you're saying is that you will be, by virtue of the homeowners association, restricting this from being a rental property. It will be something that is used by the owner for family members.
Yeah, Jay has his attorney revising the existing restrictive covenants to make sure that these are not rentals and cannot be. And as long as the HOA approves that, that will be put into place.
Okay, Philip, can we make that a condition of our approval? I mean, we're dealing with a private document or a private agreement that the city is not going to be enforcing.
I think that's an excellent question, and we have legal counsel online. So Jeff Van Zandt is online, and I'll defer that question to him.
I love these pop quizzes.
Get the big bucks.
Yeah, right. The problem is it would be subject to the approval of the homeowners association, and provided that the control of that has been turned over from the developer, you've got a condition based on the approval by a third party. We wouldn't have any way to enforce that or not. If the homeowners association did not approve that, then I would assume the approval of this would not be allowed. Again, that's kind of hard to, how do we know when that's going to take place or not? The developer has the right to put any kind of restriction on the properties as they see fit. And I didn't know if Phil knew if that transition of control of the homeowners association has actually taken place yet or not. If not, it's within the same person, and all they would have to do is state that they are going to put that restrictive covenant on the property. And I don't honestly know right now if we can require that, but it could be a recommendation and a statement by the developer that they're going to do that.
Okay.
Bill, do you know if that control is transferred?
I am under the impression, per talking to Jay today, that yes, there is the president of the HOA. He's turned over control of it. And we'll find out here in a little bit, Mr. Warren, if most of the concern from residents is we don't want rentals, I don't know why they wouldn't approve the amendment to the HOAs that make sure these casitas are not allowed to be rentals. So it is a private issue in my opinion, but.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's more private than we could, get into. And we can put conditions in a PUD, but I think that's just a little more than what we probably could stretch into.
Thank you.
And as Philip said, it really doesn't change the zoning requirements that we might have on this. So, any other questions for the agent from the commission? Hearing none, is there anyone at Century 2 that would like to address the commission on this case?
No one at Century 2.
Thank you. Is there anyone virtually that would like to address the commission on this case? If so, state.
I would.
If you could state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Rebecca Johnson. I live at 3707 South Webb Road. I am part of the farm land that is to the south of this development. And I understand that you guys don't see a problem with additional people. I do. I have already been, I've dealt with people on the south side thinking that just because I have open land, it can be traced across. The developer went and took a drainage pond and put the water out on my hay meadow, which destroyed 7 acres of it by matted down water, muddy water. So it does affect me having additional people in there. It's additional noise. I realize I'm one taxpayer, and that's an awful lot of other taxpayers that probably get their way over mine. However, if I can't have or stop any of these additions, I would certainly like some kind of wall that would keep the noise and the people and the trash from messing up my property, which I've lived out there 35 years. And I just think that you add extra people, I'm already having to live not in the country anymore. So I would like to think that if you guys cannot limit if they rent or not rent, I would like to think that somebody would say we have to show some kind of consideration and at least give those of us who still live out in the country some kind of buffer zone.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Is there anyone on the commission that have any questions for the speaker? Hearing none, thank you again for your testimony. Is there anyone else virtually that would like to address the commission?
Yeah. My name is Shirley Murray, and I'm pleased of the development. My address is 32 South Rock Road, and I would just like to reiterate the same thing that Ms. Johnson said has occurred already on our property as well. Instead of draining out into our field, they drained into our pond and killed all our fish. The workers have thrown their trash and beer bottles over onto our property. And so I was hoping that as they continue to develop, as she requested, that some kind of barrier be put up, fencing, because people are coming across onto our farmland, and we don't want to be responsible for any potential accidents that could occur. We're going to put up no trespassing signs, but if the developer could build a privacy fence or some kind of barrier between the property and the development, that would be wonderful. And also concerned with the hedgerow and tree line by the the development and the property, because a lot of those trees are nut bearing or fruit bearing trees and don't want them disturbed.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone on the commission that has any questions for the speaker? Hearing none. Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Murray. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the commission on this case? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the agent. And you have 2 minutes.
So I'm not sure exactly what, I can respond to some of those. I'm guessing that the issue of drainage was during construction. I read the letter that Mrs. Johnson sent to the Planning Commission, and my takeaway was during constructions of some of these ponds, they may have drained an existing pond, and that was some of the runoff that had to happen through the pump, the generator that was running for a long period of time. But I'm guessing some of the construction drainage issues we're talking about are construction issues that happened during the construction of that. There is a hedgerow all the way along the south property line. There is not today a screening requirement between residential and residential property. Not looking to put up a screening fence along that south property line that is there today. With that, I would stop and answer any questions that planning commissioners may have of me.
Yes, Mr. Warren?
Not so much a question, Phil. There's not a requirement for screening, but certainly there's an obligation for builders and developers to do everything that they possibly can to keep their trash from going on to somebody else's property and from their water from going on to somebody else's property. And that's, looking at that lightly is never acceptable. I hope that the developer and the builders will take that into consideration and do a much better job going forward.
Absolutely. I will relay that information along with the HOA can issue a letter asking people to stay within the Rocky Ford development and not wander off to somebody else's property. I'm in full agreement with that.
Yeah, Phil, Mike here. The hedgerow that's on, I assume it's on the south line of the development. Is the intent to keep that wherever the hedgerow is that they were talking about? Is the intent of the developer to try to keep that in place?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's an amenity in his eyes. And there's a hedgerow on the north, east, and south line, and he will keep all of the trees all he can. We will probably have to prune some of them up as utilities and stuff go in, but our intent is to leave that hedgerow intact.
Okay, thank you. Obviously realizing that there is no requirement, I do see it though as an amenity, which is good. Okay, yes, Ms. Fox has a question for you.
With the statement of trash being an issue, will the HOA be responsible to ensure that hedgerow is maintained? Because that's really trash catcher in my mind. Is that part of the agreement?
I think I'm going to go, and if you were done, I'll try to answer that. I had a feeling the trash, and I'm guessing here, everybody, planning commissioners need to understand, I will look into this and talk to the developer, and he can talk to the HOA, but I think the trash and I think the drainage situation that occurred from the pumping were construction issues. installation of sanitary sewer, water, streets. Still inappropriate, still wrong, something that happens during construction. And I can talk to the developer, but I'm also gonna have to talk to the city, because that, and if it is a construction issue, it's either happening from when the city's putting in infrastructure or the builders are building homes. And we need to regulate both of those better so that we're not a nuisance to people to the south.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions or issues, concerns from the commission? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for action.
I move for approval, subject to staff comments.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Hartman, second by Mr. Bill Johnson to approve per staff comments. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to our next case, agenda item number 4.7. It'll be zoning case 2020-00049. Change zone from rural residential to SF5 located at 403 East 4th Street, Valley Center. And Matt, you've got the floor.
Yeah, good afternoon, commissioners. So this is zone 2020-49. The applicant's requesting the rezoning of a property at 403 East 4th Street in the is it Farley or Furley? Furley community. They're requesting the rezoning from rural residential to SF5 single family. The applicant desires to tear down the current home that's on the site and rebuild. At 8,000 square feet, the lot size does not conform to the rural residential property development standards in the zoning code, and the rezoning to SF5 is required in order to build on a lot less than 10,000 square feet. The surrounding properties are all developed with residential homes on property that is rural residential as well. My guess is that the zoning came in after these homes were built. As you can see, the lot or the block that this home is situated on, it looks like none of those properties are the required 2 acres for a rural residential. The comprehensive plan identifies the site as rural on the future growth concept map. And while there's no specific future development of this area envisioned, the overall intent of the plan for these areas is to recognize and support the existing uses in the area. And this request is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. Staff recommends approval of this request as submitted. We did get one letter that should be in your packet from a neighbor who requested that as part of this, we require the property owner to get his property surveyed because he believes maybe a garage that's on the site is actually on the neighboring residence property. And then I can go through some photos as well. Next slide. So you can see there in the red box, this is the property we're talking about. Next slide. Next slide. There's the home right now that the applicant says that they intend to demolish to build a new home. Next slide. And as he goes through a couple of these photos, you can see some of the other residential properties around the site. Next. Next slide. This is across the street to the north. Next slide. And then we can go back to that. So that's what I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? Hearing none, we could have the agent or applicant And if you could state your name and address, and you have 10 minutes.
The agent is here at Century 2 and is ready for any questions.
Okay, if you could have him come to the microphone, I'd appreciate that, Stephen.
My name is Robert Brunn. I'm the agent for my sister and brother-in-law that owns the house. I know that there was a question about whether that garage was on the property to the west, and they would like to have that property actually surveyed, and that would be my intent. If this zoning goes through, before I would do anything, I would have it surveyed and have the property lines properly staked.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the agent? Hearing none. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Fox.
So if you find in the survey that the garage is in fact on an adjacent property line, you would then be planning to remove, rebuild, or relocate that as well?
Yes, my intent is actually to demolish that house, remove it. It's in such disrepair that I don't believe it's a house that can be fixed or lived in. So my intent would be to demolish it and build something on that site, something that would be new.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer you? Is that good for you?
The attached garage is what's possibly on the line, not the little garage we see off to the left behind the house. I guess that might be where I was confused.
Yes, it's the attached garage.
Thank you.
I think the garage on the left side of the picture is
I thought
the
that
next,
was
is
the
the neighbor's.
garage that maybe was
Yeah.
not on in the property lines.
Okay, do we have anybody at Century 2 that would like to speak to this case?
No one else at Century 2.
Okay. Is there anyone virtually that would like to address the commission on this case?
Yes, this is Tyler Sparks. I live at 10835 East 4th Street. It is actually the property that is to the east of the lot we're talking about.
Okay. If you could, you've got 3 minutes.
All right. I just had some concerns as far as, are they going to be asking for any help with the surveying, or I know there's a tree that is like right next to my driveway, and I don't know if it's on their property line or ours. I was just curious if the people were going to want any form of like splitting the cost, because I don't have means to do that. And I don't, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what they're trying to do.
Okay. The agent will address your concerns when we take it back to him, the conversation back to him. Do you have any other issues or concerns?
No, none at this time.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for the speaker from the commission? Hearing none. Is there anyone else virtually that would like to address the commission on this? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the agent there at Century 2. The question, I don't know if you heard it or not, but the question was concerning, I believe, maybe the tree that's on the property line and also the surveying costs. And who's going to pay for that?
He's muted.
And you're muted. Your microphone is muted there at Century 2.
Okay, yes, as far as I'm concerned, the surveying cost, I would just cover myself because I would actually like to know where those property lines lie. So I've already contacted a surveying company to see if that would be something they could do, and of course they could, and they would come out and do that, but I would incur that cost myself to set those property lines, and at that time, if that tree is on my property, I would possibly trim it up, but I don't think that I remove it. If it's not on my property, it would be the other property owner's issue.
Thank you, Mr. Brunn. Any other questions for the agent? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Move for approval.
Second.
It was moved by Mr. Hartman, second by Ms. Fox, to approve per staff comments. Do we have any other questions or concerns about the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Do we have anything else that we want to address for the commission, Mr. Wadle?
Do we have a new calendar coming?
I'll tell you what, we can have that ready for you at the next meeting. So
What's that now?
a new calendar. The request was about a new calendar, so we
Okay,
can
all right, great.
work on adding that to the agenda.
All right. Hearing nothing else, we're adjourned.